Yeah, very good afternoon, everyone, all the participants and the respected speaker. Welcome to the fourth lecture as part of the Entrepreneurship Talk series organized by the Department of Entrepreneurship and Management, IIT Hyderabad. So today we have Ms Sudha Krishnan as our speaker. She will be speaking on social entrepreneurship for inclusion. So this is the topic she will be speaking on today later. So before we start over with the lecture, I'll just give a brief introduction of Ms Sudha Krishnan's experience and her experience as an entrepreneur. So she's a spiritual wanderer, an emotional alchemist, and a continuous learner. She has over 32 years of work experience from being a marketing executive to a social entrepreneur. And she enjoys her current favorite roles as being an executive and a relationship and communications coach. Um, and she loves discovering potential in people and helping them see and expand their potential. So her purpose is to help people fall in love with themselves and live every moment with joy and gratitude. And her experience has been she has been an ICF credentialed coach, trained counselor. She has been a mindfulness practitioner. She has been a social entrepreneur and an empathic human being. So she has facilitated 400 action learning workshops for 10,000 participants from companies like GE, Genpact, CA Technologies, Invesco, Wipro, Amazon, HSBC, Facebook, Accenture, Google, SBI, Deloitte, ADP, Fidelity, JPMC, Hindustan Unilever, L&T, Mahindra and Mahindra, and ITC. So she has a very wide experience, as we can see, and she's currently a co-founder for the Dialogue in the Dark India, which is an initiative which we will hear about from Ms. Sudha soon. And she has been a director for community services ICF Hyderabad chapter, and she has had 1200 hours of experience as a facilitator, 500 plus hours of experience as a counselor, and 350 hours of experience as a coach. And her coaching areas are in the areas of leadership, communications, stress management, empathy, emotional intelligence, high performance, team development, career development, and relationship at work. In addition to these, she has the experience of coaching people from the areas of well-being, such as couples, dating, divorce, breakups, family, personal growth, values, strengths, passions, healthy relationships, self-compassion, forgiveness. So, with this humble introduction of Ms. Sudha Krishnan, I would like to hand over the stage to her to discuss today on social entrepreneurship for inclusion from her wide experience. Thank you so much, Ms. Sudha. Over to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Lohit. I think I don't have to say anything at all. That was such a detailed introduction. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. First and foremost, I just want to thank all of you who are present today here, taking time to join this session. Thank you so much. Uh, I would like to start this session with a story which is very, very close to my heart. Hope you're all okay with that. Yeah. So, like any other story, right? This story also, I would like to start by saying, once upon a time, there was a king. He lived in Arabia, and he was gifted two magnificent, beautiful looking falcon birds as a gift from one of his friend from a neighboring country. The king was very thrilled to receive these two birds. Since the birds were young and new to the country, he actually handed over them to the head trainer and said that, that he will get in touch with them after a week to know how they are doing. So after a week, the king called the head trainer and asked him, "How are the birds?" So the trainer replied, saying that one of the bird has settled down very well, but the other one, right from the time it was given to him, it just wouldn't move. And hearing this, the king was little surprised. He asked, "Is everything okay with the bird physically?" He said, "Physically, the bird is absolutely fine, but for some reason, it just wouldn't move." So the king was little worried. He said, I'm surprised that, in our country that somebody cannot find a solution. I don't know what you will do. In the next couple of days, I want you to make the bird fly. Now the trainer was under a lot of pressure. So he kind of reached out to people. And some people started saying, if the bird is physically looking good and it's not flying, maybe there is some magic or, a spell on the bird. Maybe you should work with some healers or sorcerers who can heal the bird. So he called immediately some healers, some sorcerers, and then they all came and then they did whatever they had to. But still, they couldn't make the bird move at all. Now the trainer was really worried. Then somebody in the kingdom, came to him and said, talk to a villager. They are the people who are, naturally blessed with this native intelligence. They generally tend to think a little out of the box. Talk to them. Probably they can help you. So this trainer called a villager and then he shared the problem with him. And the next day, when the king opened his palace windows, he saw both the birds were soaring high in the sky, flying so beautifully. He was thrilled and he was very very curious. How did the trainer make the bird fly? So immediately he called them. Then he said, "It's not me. It's the villager who made the bird fly." So the king said, "Immediately ask him to come." So the villager came, and then the king asked him, "What did you do? How did you make the bird fly?" The villager said, "It is very, very simple, Your Honor. I saw the bird was clinging to the branch very tight. I just cut the branch and it was clinging. And the moment it started falling, it started flapping its wings and it realized that it can fly." The corollary of the story is what really always I keep it in my memory and in my recall, and it's very close. It says that we human beings also many a times we cling to our comfort zones, and our comfort zones are actually opposites. It doesn't allow us to explore or expand or even realize our potential. So I was not an entrepreneur by choice. I was an accidental entrepreneur. So to me, the story is close because I never realized my potential till I was moved out of my comfort zone. I was not planning or dreaming to become an entrepreneur. But the whole opportunity, when it came by, I think the entire journey of this entrepreneurship really helped me realize who I am and what is my potential and what kind of qualities do I have in me. But for that, I think when I now think back, right, when I think of those days before that, I feel I was probably a lot more complacent in a space of comfort zone where I felt, everything is good, cushy job, you feel already you've reached somewhere and things like that. But now when I think back, I feel probably I was not there at all. So, with this story in the background, even before I go any further, I just want to understand from all of you what is entrepreneurship for you, right? What are the words that come to you when we say entrepreneurship? So, give me a minute, I'm just going to share the link. I've shared the link. Please click on this link. It will take you to a site called menti.com. There is just one question there. It will take probably less than 10 seconds for you to answer. Yeah. Okay, I will start sharing the screen now. So, can you all see?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I'm seeing innovativeness, work for your dream, creating value, return, freedom, money, reward, risk taking, complete responsibility. Yes. So I see creating value being, big and bold, and return the next bold, and risk. Yeah, risk taking. Many of you have said, right? So I first wanted to thank you so much for saying. I think we are all talking the same language here. This is again. Let me share my screen. So, what is social entrepreneurship? Right? Simply put, I think I'm sure all of us know entrepreneurship what it is, but I just want to make the difference here. What is social entrepreneurship? It is doing a business for social good. And unlike the other entrepreneurship, the success here is mostly measured by the social impact the enterprise creates, right? And what do we mean by social impact? It is basically the effect of an organization's actions on the well being of the community. And it is also important for us to now understand what is the difference between an entrepreneur and a social entrepreneur, right? An entrepreneur is somebody who would probably create a product, maybe a service or a process for which the customers will pay. A social entrepreneur also creates a product or a service, or they'll come out with some process from which the society will benefit, right? There's a difference here. And an entrepreneur will probably, alleviate the pain of the customer. He will be creating a product or service which is going to directly address the pain areas of the customer. But a social entrepreneur, on the contrary, will be elevating the pain of the society at large, not aimed at any one particular individual. Probably these are issues that would impact the society at large. And an entrepreneur would create a commercial value, right? Return for his investors, profits, dividends, and things like that. A social entrepreneur also creates value for their investors, but other than the profits and sustainability, I think the focus here more is what is the social value that we are creating. So it's important for all of you to know what is dialogue in the dark, right? When I said I was an accidental entrepreneur, right? It was Krishnan, my husband, the co-founder of Dialogue in the Dark, along with me. He was the one who actually experienced this in the Atlanta in the US. When he had gone there for some other reason, not definitely to experience Dialogue in the Dark, he had a delayed flight, and there was a science and museum center which was close to the Atlanta airport, and somebody recommended him, why don't you go and visit Dialogue in the Dark? Since the word dark excited Krishnan, he's generally a fun and adventurous person. So he really wanted to go and kill his time till his flight is scheduled to take off. I think this whole experience completely shifted his purpose of why he went. He was moved by it. He was moved by the possibilities, what he experienced there. I still remember in 2009, it was in October. He called me. I was here back in India. He called me. It was middle of the night here in India, and he said he's completely moved by a experience which he just completed, and he couldn't hold his emotions, and he called me to say this is something that we should bring to India. And believe me, until then, Krishnan and me, we didn't have any clue about what is disability or what is the space, what is the social entrepreneurship is all about. Nothing we knew till then. So, for the benefit of all the viewers here and for those who might watch it at a later time, I just want to briefly describe what is Dialogue in the Dark. Dialogue in the Dark is basically a empathy experience which is curated in complete darkness. So we had three different experiences which we were offering at Innorbit Mall here in Hyderabad in High Tech City. The first one is called an exhibition tour. It's basically a walkthrough experience. We call it exhibition tour. Unlike other exhibitions, you have nothing to see here, but only perceive using your other four senses. So it's like, what is it to take a walk in a park in complete darkness? And how about probably playing a game of cricket in complete darkness? Will you be able to exchange real money in a cafeteria and buy a snack or a drink in complete darkness? How about going on a boat ride in complete darkness? So these are the different experiences one would go through in those exhibition galleries in complete darkness. And the second experience we were offering is a dark restaurant. In fact, that's the most popular one. India being a foodie, so people really welcomed us and really supported us in this initiative. Um, it was a regular restaurant like any other restaurant. You can go for lunch and for dinner, but the only difference is you can't see anything, not even your own hands right in front of your eyes. But the two important senses that you need to relish a meal or eat is your sense of smell and sense of taste. So you can use that and enjoy your meal. And irrespective of your choices, whether you want a vegetarian meal or a non-vegetarian meal, you will be served that meal exactly by our guides there. And the third experience was I used to do workshops for corporates. Um, these were for teams to enhance their trust and bonding between themselves, for them to improve their communication skills, for them to reflect on the leadership skills. Mm, and basically, what happens when you are moved out of your comfort zone? What potential can you experience? And to appreciate diversity and inclusion. So, these were specifically designed for corporate teams. And in and through all the three experiences I was sharing with you now, be it the exhibition tour or the restaurant or the corporate workshop, it was all managed by visually impaired staff. Almost 75 to 80% of Dialogue in the Dark employees were visually impaired. That was the twist to the social story. And why did we employ them? The whole idea is, as a visitor, right? Whether you're eating a meal in the restaurant or you're participating in a workshop or going through this exhibition tour, it lets you to step into the shoes of a visually impaired, and you can experience the way of their living, understand what challenges they go through, and most importantly, it gives you an opportunity to experience their abilities. That is why, in that format, most of our visitors don't know that the people who work with us or who's going to guide you is a visually impaired person. They come in, walk into the center in the Innorbit Mall, like how Krishnan did for the first time, full of curiosity and thrill and fun, and they come in. Only at the end of the tour, when the tour ends, when the guide leads you out into the lobby, that's when they get to see that this person who was guiding me all this while is a visually impaired person. So it was consciously designed that way, that we wanted people to first experience their ability and not look at their disability, right? So, and it was also, I would say, in darkness, there was a level playing that was created. They also cannot see, we also cannot see, right? So, we are going to be experiencing each other at a level playing field so that we can truly understand their abilities and capabilities. So, that was the whole idea. And why did we want to do Dialogue in the Dark? The whole objective was, when we came back, we knew that in 2009 especially, right, there weren't enough employment opportunities for people with disabilities, but for in government and probably in banks, nationalized banks, and all the government departments. So people did not know why they were not having equal opportunities, because most of the time it was the mindset issue, the attitude of people like us, because we didn't know what is their capability, and there were a lot of stigma, prejudices, myth around disability on what they can do and what they cannot. So we wanted to break this. We wanted people to experientially understand so that they are more open to create a inclusive society. So that was the whole idea of why we wanted to uh, start Dialogue in the Dark here. And the most important thing that I wanted to share is, why is diversity education or why is inclusion so important? Right? If we see the Sustainable Development Goal of the UN, one of their goals is that we need to end all forms of poverty and ensure that no one is left behind. And this will be possible only if we include PWDs, that is, people with disabilities. And today, if you see the population, it's not that they are people who are just sitting at home. They are very well educated, they are skilled, they are trained. In fact, many of them currently, at the end of now 11 years of Dialogue in the Dark, when I look at now the disability space, I can see many of them are even job ready. And today they have more opportunities than it was probably 11 years back. And the World Bank has estimated that the global GDP loss because of this exclusion of people with disabilities is between US dollar 1.71 trillion to 2.23 trillion annually. So, by excluding them, by not including them in our workspaces, by not giving them equal opportunities, we are actually creating such a big GDP loss for our country. And in fact, on the contrary, we are also adding the burden to the taxpayers. So that was one of the important reasons. If you remember when I said, the whole idea is to create social impact. So these are not areas, pain areas of people directly. Nobody thinks of, what kind of social burden are we creating for our economy by not including them. So the whole idea is, how can we educate and sensitize people on what matters the most so that they are more willing and open. And I want to talk about the journey of Krishnan and me in our whole social entrepreneurship. And when I looked at it, it is like, various stages or various steps that we went through in our journey. And when I started preparing for this presentation, for sharing it with all of you, uh, when I did this slide, then it looked to me it's not just our journey, or it's just not a capture of various stages of our journey, but it also relates to most of the entrepreneurs, what they go through. So what I have done here is I have captured various stage, and I'm also going to share with you at each stage what did we do or what was expected out of us as an entrepreneur, and what were some of the feelings that we experienced. This you don't get to hear from many entrepreneurs, but I thought this is very, very important, because our feelings play a major role in how we handle this whole entrepreneurship journey, right? So the first one is the idea, right? This is the stage, probably when you're inspired to do something. This is the moment when Christian was inspired in Atlanta to bring back this experience to India. This was the time when he spoke to me, and I was equally thrilled by seeing the scope and the possibility. So, what did we do, or what was important at this stage, was clarity. Clarity of what is that we want to do and why do we want to do this. This is very, very important. What we wanted to do was, we wanted to sensitize, we want to educate people on the abilities of the so-called disabled people. And why did we want to do this? Because we wanted to create an inclusive society, especially an inclusive workplace, and also change the mindsets and attitudes of people. And we had to be having this conviction that what we are, setting up to do is something that is very, very important. Because unlike, when you are developing a product, you're solving a pain area. Today we see many technology companies, right? Wherever people have brought organization to an unorganized sector. Like today we are talking about Ola, Uber, which used to be cab services, used to be very unorganized. Today it is organized, and they have derived a value of it. Similarly, is probably, food delivery business, or even today we are talking about online shopping. Everything which was unorganized now has become very organized. Whether you take even urban company, right? They have organized an unorganized sector like bringing all the carpenters together, the plumbers together, electricians together, and giving them a platform where they have access to customers. Unlike all this, what Christian and me were trying to do, this was not a pain area of any customer, but this was probably an ignored area of the society, of the loss which was not very, very evident for all of us, but we were all paying for it, right? So we had to stay committed with our idea. It was not just enough that we were inspired and had the idea. We had to stay committed with that idea for long enough. And what did we go through in this stage? We were very excited. We were very, very inspired. This is what we went through at the first stage. And the next stage is, giving form. What do I mean by this? Right now, you had an idea, but you had to give a form to it. So when Krishnan and me started exploring what is this disability space, and we even started. I remember me and Krishnan talking, and checking with each other. Did you have any people with the persons with disability when you were studying in your school? Or did you go to college and did you have anybody studying with you there or in your workplace? And to both of us, we didn't have such experience. Suddenly we asked, so where are these people? And when we checked for the data in 2009, we didn't even have a live data. There was a census that was taken probably back in 2001, so we had to rely on the data. And as per that, what we understood is there were 15 million people with disabilities in India, and that is only the official report. There could be equally another 15 million or more, which is not reported. Because of the stigma of the society, even when people go to take census, families do not disclose that they have a disabled person in their family. This was the seed at that time. So we thought, okay, if there are even officially 15 million people, where are they? I'm not seeing them. And to be very honest, till then, I have met disabled people only at the traffic lights, begging for alms. Or I have gone to a couple of blind schools during my birthdays, probably when we wanted to donate for the education of a child or something like that. To me, at that moment, it was like, that isn't enough. Just check charity is not going to help them. Helping them getting educated, it's not really helping them because they are not included in their workplace. They are not getting opportunities. How many of them can get into the government and bank exams? And I know of people who keep writing these exams, for 10, 12 years, till the age eligibility is gone and still don't find a job. So we said, this is not right. We need to do something about it. So we explored the space, and then came the next step, right? So social enterprise, a lot of them were not uh, very aware of what is a social enterprise back in 2009. That was still a new concept. People said, I don't know who can fund you. Uh, who will be able to support you with this idea? So we really had to evaluate, okay, if I need to start this, how am I going to start this? Are we going to do it as a partnership, or is this going to be a sole proprietary, or is it going to be a private limited company, a Section 8 company, right? So you start evaluating a lot of options. And then what is even more important is you execute. You need to make some decisions. So what are some of the feelings that we went at this stage? We felt enthusiastic still, but there are moments of confusion for us. We felt confused. There were times when we felt completely lost, not knowing what decision is the best decision. We were disillusioned because this space was completely new. We didn't have anybody who we could emulate from or role model. There were people who were working in the disability space, but that was more like, they were running schools or running colleges. And most of them were government or NGO initiatives. We didn't have any social enterprise which was for profit. Me and Christian were very clear that when we start something, this is not that we want to live out of donations or charitable foundations. So we wanted this to be sustainable and profitable so that we could reinvest money in the venture. That was the whole idea. So the next stage is life. You need to give life to the idea, right? And life, to give life, I think one of the key ingredients is vitamin M, the money I'm talking about. So Christian and me decided we will invest all our life savings, what we had till then, because Christian was very clear that he is going to, say bye-bye to his corporate life, and we both decided that this is something that we really want to venture into. But that was not enough for us to start this project. So we had to go and approach people who will support us. So, what was expected out of us at this stage? Definitely we had to stay focused with the purpose what we wanted to create, and we had to be passionate irrespective of what we were going through. We remained passionate, especially when you had to reach out to people and talk to them about why is that what you want to do. I think they need to see their passions. From my experience, what I have learned is investors just don't invest for the idea. They also look for the passion in the entrepreneur. Do you have it in you to work against all the odds? Because money is not just enough. We need more than money. And you need to be very, very resourceful, in my opinion. When I say resourceful, what I mean is you need to have your own networks. So Christian and me started building our own networks. It's not that we knew who were the investors already, but they say, right, if you choose the right five right person, you can get connected to anybody in the world. So we had to make that choice, right? Who are the five people who will take to the right investor? So we had to meet at least 48 investors before we got the final angel investor who said that he would invest in this project. So what was important was not just building the network, first you probably reached out to two investors, and then probably they said, this is a great idea, but I don't think we can invest in this. So you just don't feel disheartened when somebody says something like this. You just still passionately ask them, okay, can you help me to reach out to the right person? Who can help us with this? Who do you think will be interested in such project? That's how we started building our networks. So what is important is, one, you need to be resourceful, you expand your networks, and even more important is you keep engaging. It's not just enough you just write your business plans and probably make your project report and your proposal ready and you make your pitch ready and share the decks with investors. I think you need to engage with them continuously. In fact, the other three qualities which are very, very important at this stage is you need to be open, willing, adaptable. What I mean by is you have to stay committed to the idea, right? What we said, you have to stay committed. But how do you want to execute? You have to be open. You have to be willing to take suggestions and ideas that comes from others. In fact, I would say right from the first investor, right, all the questions, all the doubts that they asked us, all the challenging questions that they asked us, we kept working on it and we kept incorporating and finding answers for it. So by the time when we reached the 48th investor, like they say it, right, luck favors the prepared. Since we were so prepared, I think the 48th investor was completely convinced with our idea, our passion, and the clarity with which how we want to execute this. And that's how we got the funds. And what did we go through at this stage of bringing life to the idea? Yeah, we were definitely energetic. We continued with our enthusiasm, but there are times when we felt completely exhausted. There are times when we felt very, very doubtful. Are we doing the right thing? Was this the right decision of quitting a good earning career, a cushy job, being in your own comfort zone? Did we really become very emotional by this cause and meaning? Right, so many doubts. And there are times you feel very anxious, especially when an investor has asked you or shown some interest. You're feeling very anxious. Is this investor going to support me? Sometimes when they say, this is fantastic, this is the thing that you need to be doing, you feel really satisfied, you feel very assured, you feel very validated. So I think there are many other emotions. There's a range of emotions you go through, but I have captured only whatever was very, very important, because one, I couldn't accommodate everything in this slide. So the next stage is the birthing, which is the implementation, right, the execution of the project. At this stage, I think it was just not enough. You have your investor and your money is ready. I think what was very, very important is some of the important decisions that you need to take. And again, we had to be really, really flexible. Um, Initially, we thought, okay, we had also studied the other markets, especially the European markets and the Asian markets where dialogue in the dark is present. And we understood there is a trend and a pattern there. All the European markets, even the Americas, uh, Dialogue in the Dark was hosted either as part of a museum, either a science museum or a natural history museum, and things like that. Those, because if you see, the culture of the society is people go to museums, and even you and me as visitors, when we go to Europe or US, we end up going to museum as part of our tourism, right? So there is a steady flow of people who keep coming, so it makes a good idea to host dialogue in the dark in such places, which gives you great opportunity to sensitize and educate people. But when we studied the Asian markets like Hong Kong, Malaysia, Bangkok, they were all operating from a mall. So since we were part of Asia, we also thought probably we should try that, because mall is again a place where you have good footfall. What I mean by footfall is a lot of people come in, right? You don't have to do any special marketing. There's a lot of people anyway, they come into this place. So if you just position yourself right within the mall, you will attract more people into your center. So we had to really experiment with this whole idea. And the important challenge came for us. If you remember, I said 75 to 80% of our organization is visually impaired, managed by visually impaired. So we were wondering, where are we going to get these people from? Because what Christian experienced in the US, right? He said they had excellent communication skills. Uh, they were highly confident. They were highly capable, and they were very well dressed. They were independent in movement and things like that. So we were wondering, where am I going to get my employees from, right? If they are the ones who are going to run the show, where are they? I could find only three or four people from Hyderabad. So we had to identify at least 150 people all over India to get the first 16 people who could work for us. And they were not job ready, definitely, right? Because these were the people, probably they finished their higher secondary education, many of them even their graduation, some of them even their post graduation. But what was probably happening for them is they were studying in schools, either it's a blind school, or probably they were only having the exposure of moving with their own communities, that is other visually impaired people. So to that extent they were not exposed to the outside world. They lacked the communication skills that we wanted. Especially if they were to work in an urban city, we would attract all kind of crowds into a mall. They should be speaking English and at least couple of other regional languages. So we didn't have people who were readily available. So that was the first challenge that we had to work on. So we had to really spend a lot of time in training them to become job ready. This job of playing the role of a guide required a lot of communication skills, confidence, empathy, being sensitive to the needs of the customers in the dark, especially when you're serving food for them, when you're guiding. They customers who walk in come with various emotions. Some of them come very thrilled, but they get very, very scared in the dark. Some of them come with a lot of fear, but they get exhilarated in the dark. So they need to be sensitive enough to understand these differences in the dark. Some customers would speak and some customers would not speak at all. So we had to really train them how to do all of this. And I think what was most important is that we had to stay alert and be very, very attentive and sensitive to understand what do our employees want at this point of time. We had to be very sensitive to their needs and the customer needs, because this was completely different, right? We had taken close to 13,000 square feet of space in Innorbit Mall, such a large space, and we had to curate these experiences in darkness in such a way that when somebody walks in and walks out, they are completely safe. They don't get hurt. There are no sharp edges anywhere. There are no steps. There are gentle slopes for them, if at all there are slopes. People, when especially we had this boat ride, which was a very, very popular experience. People felt that they were going on a real boat, right? So we had to create a boat in the water and movement, and then they had to feel that it was like a boat ride. So they had to step into a boat when the boat is shaking. So we had to ensure that that experience was real, but yet very safe. So there were a lot of things we all was possible because we stayed curious, though there were challenging moments. I think at every time staying curious to find what can really help the situation. So what did we really go through at this stage? I think what we felt is excited when we opened the first center at Innorbit Mall welcoming visitors. We were so thrilled. There are times when we felt very, very tensed, especially Saturdays and Sundays was the time. Probably our centers were running full. Weekdays, it was not used to the full capacity, but weekends, Hyderabad really started supporting us. The word of mouth started spreading, and then people would really queue up in our sectors. There are times we were very confused, right? Um, how do we manage this challenge? Because when people come, what is important is we are not spending anything on marketing. People are coming on their own because of word of mouth and what others have got to say. We have to keep them safe. We have to keep them happy. They should not get irritated waiting for a long time, right? So we were very confused. How would we, keep them occupied? So we had to really come up with ways of how do we make their waiting time interesting. Yet, Christian and me also felt very, very supported uh, by the way people welcomed us in Hyderabad with this project, uh, by our own employees. Right by this time, we were already 30 of us. It was just not me and Christian. We had another 28 people supporting us. We felt very, very connected with the purpose and the meaning as to why we started this and the journey. Right, I call this journey uh, because this is something that will continue. When we started at this idea stage, I thought, this journey has a destination, only for me to realize later that there are only milestones and there is no destination because the destination keeps moving or keep changing, and we need to keep adapting ourselves to the needs of the times. So, what was expected of us during this stage? I think first and foremost, I want to highlight on this point is we need to be enjoying and celebrating the small wins that we have from time to time, because this journey of entrepreneurship is not a straight inclined line going up all the time. Rather, it's like a ECG line, right? A lot of ups and downs. So we need to develop this habit of how do I pause and celebrate those small wins, and how do I manage those challenging moments, right? And once we opened, what was becoming even more important is we had to keep reviewing what is working, what is not working. Now our capacities are not getting full, or we don't have enough visitors during the weekday, but we have a lot of visitors coming on the weekend. How do we manage this? How is this going to translate into our viability? How is it going to make business sense for us? And we also had a unique challenge, right? People who were walking into our centers and experiencing it, maybe they would have come alone for the first time, or probably with their families. The next time they would bring their extended families and friends. The next time they would probably bring their teams and colleagues from office. So people started repeating. We started having more and more repeat visitors. So people started asking, hey, last time when I came, it was the same boat ride, it was the same supermarket experience, same park. Can we have something different? Right? So India is a country where a dil mange more, right? So other countries they used to change these experience once in 2 3 years, but here we were still grappling with just implementing the project, and seeing how do we fill our capacities, how do we manage the financial viability. The new challenge was time for innovation. So we had to go back to the idea stage again. What else can I do? So that is when our teams offers great support to us. Whenever Krishnan and me had such kind of challenges, I think we always felt vulnerable and we shared it with our team. which included our sighted staff and visually impaired staff. It was them who came up with excellent ideas of what are the other experiences we can give. Right later, we uh, started bringing newer and newer experiences. Like we had a maze in the dark. How will you come out of a maze only using clues of sense of smell and touch? Initially, we had a boat, then we replaced it with cricket in the dark, then we did spa in the dark, then we had an escape room in the dark. So, and then we made people make coffee in the dark as a team. So we kept innovating continuously. And what kept all of us going, and what was most important was, I think, the first 3 years, we did not even have one person leaving the company, right? No attrition at all. That was purely because I think our employees felt recognized. They were acknowledged even for their smallest contribution and efforts. And what was really important is that you keep the communication alive with your team always. Be vulnerable, share your challenges, whatever it might be. You don't have to put up when things are not going good, right? Especially there are times retail industry was completely new to us, and we didn't know how the malls operate, right? So there are something called retail months where you have a lot of footfall. There are months, especially like after Shankranti till probably March end. It's exams time. Nobody comes to the mall. Parents are busy with their children, and people don't turn up. So what do you do in these kind of low retail months? How do you manage? I think dealing the situation with utter honesty and keeping all the stakeholders informed, whether it is our investors, whether it is Innovate Mall, where we had leased the space, or our own employees. I think Krishna and me uh, chose to be vulnerable, and then we shared, and I think that support just came in. People really understood what we were doing, and that was very, very important. And what did we go through? At this stage, we really felt very, very expanded, confident, and responsible, because there was now a big family which was dependent on us, right? In terms of monthly salaries of almost 50 people, uh, and then in turn their families. And we were feeling really accountable to our investors, to our stakeholders, all of them, and what we started to do. So I'll take a break here, and just would like to understand if there are any questions, anything that's coming up. Okay.
It's yeah, it was like very interesting presentation so far. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Yeah.
We have a comment from our public relations officer that she is a big fan of But Dialogue in the Dark. She has visited in orbit
Okay.
mall 4 times. So,
Okay. Okay.
so
So she's one of the repeat visitors I was talking about.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you so much. Hi. I didn't get your name. You're on mute?
Hi, this is Mitali. Actually, I'm a public relation officer at IT Hyderabad. Actually, it's been maybe 3 years I didn't visit actually. Maybe two
Okay.
2 years it's because of COVID actually.
Yes. Yes.
So it's really amazing. Though I happen to sense the same thing. Maybe as you said, maybe in orbit is the smallest setup. I don't know if other are there to explore in Hyderabad, but it's really amazing. Actually, I happen to tell our director actually, and he
Yeah.
was very keen to visit, but I came to know that you have stopped due to COVID. So I
Yes.
wanted
Yes.
to ask at the end of presentation, thanks to
Yes.
Dr. Louis to give me opportunity to talk to you.
Yep.
You have really done a very amazing job, doing, I guess. Are you starting again? Actually, the question I
Yes,
want to ask,
that
yeah.
yes, we would, but the format and I think in how we are going to continue to do what we are doing is a question mark, because the
Okay.
times are still not relevant for the business to be back, uh,
Yeah.
right? Because one of the key senses that we use is the sense of touch, and
Touch.
that is the big
Yeah.
taboo now, and
Yeah, yeah.
that is the reason the format has become a little irrelevant during the COVID time. So we wait for when we can come out of the big pause.
Yes, yes, yes. Even I guess the same thing. The reason it would have had, even I got a couple of messages also that if I could have helped some way, because I can understand it could have been the hard time for you when the
Yes,
business is not running to keep
yes,
your talent alive actually. And they're really amazing people. As I told, even I had that restaurant also where I
yes,
took my
yes.
mother-in-law actually.
Oh, lovely,
So
lovely.
yeah, yeah. So I happen to visit it soon. I hope.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
Thanks.
So let me quickly complete my presentation. Just a second.
Yeah, we have a raised hand from Dr. Nakul.
Yeah,
Yeah, ma'am, a quick question to you.
sure.
So if you look at your organization, it's a classic case of dual purpose organization, right? You're having a social purpose and an economic purpose.
Right.
Now, looking at our country, such organizations are important. But from your experience, what are the key challenges, especially in the 5 steps that you mentioned? You can just go back to the slide.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
are unique challenges at each step that you might be facing, which probably or
yeah,
a general organization which is not a dual purpose organization will not face. So, what are the
yeah.
unique challenges? Primarily looking at maybe
I think,
instigating students, instigating entrepreneurs to take it forward. They
yeah,
need to be
yeah,
aware about both the challenges as well as the potential. The second question is what is
right.
the potential
Yeah,
beyond beyond looking at say the blind as a segment to cater to in terms of social as well as
yeah,
finding an economic value.
yeah. Thanks for asking that question. I think one challenge that continued all the time is, right, this is a good thing to do, not a must thing, not an immediate thing to do. As I told you, right, if we were solving the pain of any particular individual, right, through a product or service, then people really probably would grab it. But since this is a social cause, right, all the social causes are looked at as with a distance. Ah, this is something nice to do. I will do when I have time to do. So one of the greatest challenges for us was how do we keep our centers active, right? I told you, right? Our weekends used to be full of people, whereas our weekdays, we didn't have many visitors. I would say it's like probably if weekends we had almost 300 visitors coming, in weekdays we will have only 30 to 50 visitors. But we had to keep our, what to say, schedule, our roster, our staff availability as if people would come and we could cater to 300 people even on a weekday, because you can't now say weekdays people aren't coming, so I should have reduced staff. And moreover, all my employees didn't come from Hyderabad. They came from different parts of the city, which means they have moved their city and they live here. So I didn't even have the choice of having part-time employees. I had to keep them full time. I had to roster them on all the days. I had to keep, since I was in a mall, I had to be operating all the 365 days, whether it makes business sense, whether it is viable or not. So there was a sunken cost for me in terms of real estate, in terms of salaries, in terms of operational costs. So these were the challenges that we had to live with. Did I answer your question?
Yes, and looking at the potential, what next? Like when you answered our PRO ma'am, you mentioned that touch happens to be an important aspect
Yeah,
for people to realize or experience what DID is
yeah,
trying to convey them.
yeah.
So, if you're looking at the potential further, is there anything? Because I was reading the article of DID on Better India, and I
Mm.
think there are 2 more coverages which mentions that you collaborate with other set of organizations and
Yes,
make their organizations much more inclusive a place. Maybe they
yes,
start empathizing more with the employees.
yes.
So
Yeah.
how did this pan out? Because I look at DID as a core idea and then these as the complements which support you for your existence.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You're right. I think the potential lies in form of, in fact, thanks for asking it. One of the important, when I said, right, the destination keeps changing. So it's no more like it's a destination, it's more like milestones. When we started originally, we started with this idea of, that we need to sensitize, we need to educate people on the abilities of the so-called people with disabilities. That was our original vision. But after 3 or 4 years, in fact, we were faced with this question, right? And it was a very, very important question that me and Christian had to answer for ourselves as well. They said, okay, you're now changing the mindsets of people. So what? How is it creating an impact in the world, in the lives of a disabled person? How is it translating? You're changing. So we said, no, like, mindset is the first change you need to lead. If people are going to change their mindsets, probably they'll be more open to including. Then they ask this question. So in this 3, 4 years of your operations, do you have clear data to prove that people have employed disabled people in their organization? So that was a moment of truth for Christian and me, right? That's when again the goalpost changed. Then we thought probably we are not completing the cycle, and when we are just addressing one part of it, which is just sensitizing and educating. Now, how do we show, or how do we showcase that these people are employable, or how do we create meaningful employment opportunities for them? So that's when we started a project called Take One, which is nothing but a very simple idea, because there was a lot of corporates in that first 3, 4 years. They said, yes, we are taking back a message. Let us know what can we do for you. How can we support you? Right. So we had a lot of corporates drumming support for us. And then we thought probably this is a time to take pledges from them. So we approached all the corporates for whom we did workshops, for whom we did special events, who were our visitors in the mall. Like, can you give us job pledges that if you find a person with disability who is job ready for the kind of roles that you have, that you're willing to hire them? Then that's when we started, collecting these job pledges. I was just going to share that. Yeah, these are the various awards and recognitions that we got. In fact, we never aimed to become the top 10 restaurants in Hyderabad. We were consecutively rated like that for 3 years by TripAdvisor. Um, yeah, couple of people from the government. I'll move on. Yeah, this is what I wanted to share, Dr. Nakul. So, as a result of it, what we did was we had sensitized thousands of corporates in the last 11 years, and then we got almost 10,000 job pledges created for hundreds of job roles. What we did is, through this Take One, we started 2 training centers in the state of Telangana, and over 6 years, we trained close to 6,000 people with disabilities, training them across sectors like retail, hospitality, BPO, manufacturing, data entry, and many things. And successfully, through this initiative called Take One, we were able to place 4,000 PWDs who were placed in a permanent job. This, in turn, if you see, has resulted in a 25 crore economy, PWD economy. Otherwise, they were not earning. So this was the potential that we saw. Answering your question, Dr. Nakul. So this was the potential we failed to tap initially in the first 3, 4 years. I think the questions that were aptly raised by a couple of our visitors and corporates helped us to really use the untapped potential of what we were doing. So sensitization was just not enough. Showcasing their potential was equally enough, not enough. So we created opportunities for them.
I think the catch here is that you focused on the social part, and it eventually, once you were successful on the sensitization part, you realize the eventual
Yes.
potential that this can
Yes.
actually go ahead with.
Yeah. In fact, this part, right, the moment when we brought this twist to the whole journey of not just sensitizing, but also training and creating job opportunities, that's when NSDC, the National Skills Development Corporation, which is the Prime Minister's initiative at that time, they had actually chosen us as their innovation partner. And then they funded us for us to expand beyond Hyderabad. That's when we moved into cities like Chennai, Bangalore, Raipur, to create more centers. And in fact, it gave me the opportunity to showcase dialogue in the dark by doing a lot of external events. like young president organizations, entrepreneurial organizations. There are many such organizations who were inviting us. Like I had this opportunity of going to Tata Steel in Jamshedpur and setting up dialogue in the dark. Right when we started, we were calling people into our centers, but at the end of 4 years, we had to innovate and we had to respond to the needs of the market by carrying the darkness in a box. What I mean is, we had to carry all materials and go to a place and then create darkness there, sensitize people, and then come back. So that is how opportunities kept, coming in the form of challenges initially, and then we kept responding to it.
It was absolutely a pleasure to hear you.
Yeah, yeah. So, before we end, I love taking feedbacks, right? So I'm so used to taking feedbacks from my customers on a daily basis. So I just would like to know, how was this presentation, and was it useful? Was it relevant? So would love to hear from you. I'm just going to share a link.
Lohit there? Dr. Lohit?
Yeah, Dr.
Yeah.
Nabil.
I've shared a link. It'll be lovely to hear from you. There are two questions
Okay.
if you can answer. All right.
Yeah, just
And
getting writing the answers.
yes.
I request all participants to actively respond to the survey just forwarded by Sudha, Ms. Sudha.
All right. So
Yeah,
I stop sharing now. Great. So hope the time spent was useful, was relevant. So
yeah, it
if there are,
was really insightful, ma'am. I mean, it's really inspiring to hear from you for the story of Dialogue in the Dark, and the key takeaways from your journey. Especially, I liked the tagline that the progress is not a straight line, but it's like an ECG. That's a fact, and from your own experience, listening from
yeah,
you, it's a great thing for
yes.
all of us. And I request the students, if you have any doubts or clarifications, please feel free to ask or raise your hand. Here we have question from Raghav Gupta. Yes.
You want to
Ma'am,
unmute? Yeah.
yes, ma'am, just a quick question. So, you said in the early stage you need to decide how should it be a partnership, private enterprise, or something. Can you just briefly give insight how to take a quick decision about that? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So when you say how to take a quick decision about that, what exactly do you want to know, Raghav?
like uh, let's say someone like us, a student is starting up, so
Hmm.
we might not in the initial state spend too much time regarding it. So
Yes.
just to begin with, what would be safe? path or a like standard path for that?
Yeah. Um, there is nothing called safe or standard path. I would like to answer it this way, Raghav. I think it directly depends on what is that you want to do, what is that you're wanting to create, right? Uh, and what is going to be the nature of business? And is it all by yourself, or do you have partners with whom you're starting? And it all depends on the investments that you need to bring around, right? So I think there needs to be many questions that needs to be answered before we take a decision. But to answer the question little more straight, which can be helpful for you, is um, get to know about all the options that is available to you. Like how I said, right? Never look at having a shortcut. It doesn't matter whether you're starting small, starting big, but to know the entire space is always good, because later you wouldn't regret, oh, I wish I had knew this information, so today I want to change this to the status of a company, right? We explored all the options that was available for us. We understood, went in detail, sought support for questions which we didn't have answers. We reached out to people who can give us answers, and then we took an informed decision. Once the clarity was there for us, this is what ours is, a social enterprise, but I want to make it profitable. So I don't want to go form it as a trust or a foundation. I want to be a private limited. I want to be tomorrow be giving returns to my investors. So when that clarity came in, that's when we decided it's going to be a private limited company, and definitely not an NGO or a trust, because that had or a preconceived notions, right? Oh, NGO, then they are probably, they live on doles or they take donations. They're not very serious. We didn't want that messaging to go out. That is the reason we chose. So it's very important. That's why I said, you need to know what you want to be doing and why you're wanting to do this and what will fit you well.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Did I answer your question, Rana?
Yes, ma'am.
Any more questions?
Ma'am, just one question. Like
Yeah.
after 25 years in this, like, do you still feel as motivated or more motivated or what?
If you heard Mitali mentioning, right, when the whole pandemic broke, in fact, we were not even prepared for such a thing to come on us, right? It was like such a hard force on us. The malls were closed. Who will imagine that malls will be closed for so many months and there is no way you can continue your business? And even when things opened, we were denied permission because it is not safe, right? And even it is not safe for us to expose our own employees in the dark where everything is going to be touched, uh, right? So, sorry, I just lost your question. What was your question?
Ma'am, I am like,
Do you
do
still
you?
feel motivated, right? Yeah. So, in fact, I would say Christian and me today, we are continuously thinking what could be relevant in the current times. How can we continue to do our work, which we did, right? Which is sensitizing and educating people, and making them more open for inclusion and creating equal work opportunities. So we are now seeing what can we do in this virtual world. How can we continue this education? Because ours was an experiential format. Now we need to move into a digital format. So what can we do? So we are still in that exploration, and hopefully, we will be able to respond to this challenge, and we will continue to do our work. So yes, we are equally motivated. We don't consider this as a stop. We are only looking at it as a big pause.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
So probably I am looking forward to experience it
yeah,
firsthand, even
yeah.
before you move digital. The moment
Yes,
the
yes,
ID opens,
yeah,
I'll keep a
yeah.
track of it.
Yeah, we'll be more open, more happy, probably, once the times are safe and relevant. We can even set up the darkness inside IIT for you to experience.
Yes,
That is nice.
that
Yeah,
would be a great,
yeah, yeah.
great thing if it happens.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Let's hope for that.
yeah. So if there are no more questions, I think we can end it if there are no more questions.
Yeah. So, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Dr. Lohit, Dr. Nakul, and Dr. Ganesh, for helping me to travel back my memory lane of last 11 years. It was wonderful traveling that path back and sharing my experiences with you.
Yeah, it's our pleasure actually to hear from you, and we wish that you come back with DID physical space once again, and
Yes.
we hope we can visit to
Yeah.
your
Yes.
initiative. Yeah, thank you so much
Yes.
for your
Thank you so
time.
much.
We
Yeah.
will keep in touch with you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Ms.
Mitali.
Malika.
Sudha.
Thank you.
Thank you.